Good afternoon. We're going to call the committee polls to order. Please, if you could quiet in the council chambers, that would be great. Motion to adopt the agenda.
Move. Second.
Those in favor? Motion's carried. One delegation this afternoon, and it's Ben Davies and company regarding 215 Church Street application. Ben and friends, you can take the podium there. Welcome, and you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Great, thank you. Well, hopefully I won't take 10 minutes, but thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for allowing us to come and talk to you today. I'm representing 1058490 EC Limited, and a couple of my friends, and the Church Tap House project, which we're starting the proposal right now, the process at 215 Church Street, just up the road. I'd like to introduce two of my other partners. The fourth is actually away on business, so he's not here. This is Craig Grant and Adam Duncan. We're definitely here to give you a little info, and then if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those as best we can. So the four of us are all local. We live in Comox, we work in Comox, we've raised families in Comox. Craig and I were actually born here, so we have pretty long ties to the valley and to Comox. And we sort of we're looking at this Tap House project, which for those of you that aren't sure, it's at where the old daycare was, just on Church Street next to the Comox Bakery, or the Church Street Bakery. And we wanted to create a place that is family friendly, somewhere we can go to socialize, to visit with friends and family, sort of fitting into the revitalization mandate of the town, trying to get people back downtown, trying to have a place that's maybe open a little bit later, that friends and family or tourists can come and have a drink and maybe a little bite to eat. We want it to be local, we want it to be walkable, we want it to be bike friendly. We've got lots of bike plans or bikes parking spot plans there. And I think we also want to sort of maintain a certain feel to the project. So we want to sort of have a West Coast kind of a feel to the building that pays sort of homage to the timber industry, the fishing industry, First Nations. And I've got here, let me just quickly pass these up to the council. We've got two preliminary sets of, these really are not, these are just ideas. This is by no means the finished project, but just some ideas of what it might possibly look like. There's some elements there. We know a lot of people in town. We've talked to a lot of people in town. We have parents in town, we have other relatives in town. We've heard nothing but support for this idea of having a local, friendly, family-based sort of a tap house where we can go and visit and have a beer and a snack. We've had a couple interesting little anecdotes, some of whom are from neighbors that are actually quite close to the proposed location. One of the residents on Buena Vista, who's been there a long time, said he actually wanted us to put a gate in his fence so he could come through for a quick beer. We've had good support from the Harbor Authority, and they've sort of set up some statistics about how many tourists come through town in the summer, and how it would be nice to have an extra place that's maybe open a little bit later, where tourists could go for a drink or a bite. And then we also want to sort of selfishly have somewhere local that we can go. Gladstone's has been a great success in Courtenay. Cumberland Brewing is great. And when I go up there mountain biking, I always stop at the brewery for a pint. But there is really nothing in Comox, and so we wanted to bring that back to town. One of the we even had one cute testimonial, which was in the package, which the guy basically sent a letter of support, and all he really did was quote the Cheers song from everybody didn't know your name, so it's kind of funny. The last thing to submit here, or just for your, there is one of these in the package, but it wasn't very clear, is this is just a map of the letters of support we've received so far and where they're from in Comox. And you can see that there's quite a wide range. There's lots in the downtown core, some a little bit farther out of town, but just kind of gives you a little bit of a graphic. So with that, I think I'd just like to open it up to any comments or questions.
Okay, so as you know, this matter is on the agenda for this evening to address the liquor board requirements, which require solicitation of views of the public in a more formal way. And council can either opt in or opt out of that process. So that's kind of where you're at from our process, but certainly other members of council may have questions related to that. So, go ahead.
I mean, you're not suggesting that we'd have a business open after 6 o'clock. I have to tell you, I've heard nothing but positive comments on this too, so that's really good as far as I'm concerned.
Other questions?
Just so I'm clear, Ben, your intention is to actually brew a product on site?
No,
No?
Our intention is to, we've actually talked to a few other local breweries, Tofino, Gladstone's, about bringing their product in. I think there's already a couple of breweries in town, and well, there's 3 other ones, and we'd like to just start slow, and we all like drinking beer, but we don't know how to make it, so, so I think it would be a case of just getting it open, getting people in there to see that it's a fun, friendly place to go, and then, who knows, maybe a few years down the road, just to see what happens.
Thank you.
Other questions, Councilor Arnott, and we'll go to the second.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea too, but reading in here it said liquor primary, so forgive my ignorance. So does that mean limited amounts of food and more alcohol?
No, it's just, I think, mostly a designation. If you have a food primary, you're sort of a restaurant first.
Right.
And so if you're somewhere like a pub or a tap house, then you can be a liquor primary. We'll still have a menu, there'll still be a variety of different things to eat, but it's sort of like the difference between, the Old Lorne and perhaps Martine's, right? There's
Right,
two sides of it.
And finally, now I know we're here just to talk about the liquor license really, but the fact that it looks like you have to demolish that building, but you guys are going to the extra mile to basically replicate what's there now, but in a modern construction, which I think is a great way forward.
Yeah, if we're still in the preliminary stages right now. We're not doing anything because we're just trying to figure out if we can have a liquor license.
Yeah.
Walk before we run. But
Right.
but I think we're sort of studying everything right now. We've talked to engineers and our architects about, can we keep the building? Can we demolish it? Like what's the best option? From a safety perspective, it is old. So those are all things we're working on.
Okay.
And any rebuild of it in a significant way would go through a development permit.
Right, yeah.
Go ahead, Councilor Price.
Yes, and I agree, and I certainly heard when I was campaigning way back when that there isn't anywhere you can go and listen to music and have a beer, and that people who live downtown and very much would like to see that. So I think you're filling a niche that certainly an empty one, or pretty empty. And you seem to have done your homework with the letters of support already. I just, as a further to the keeping the building or not, as you've identified as the old United Church on Church Street, you've got the Anglican Ilse Road and the United Church. So if there was a way to keep it, my personal preference would be to keep the fabric, rip the inside out, redo it, but it's sort of part of that history that's in that part of town.
And that's definitely a consideration. I think we're just trying to get as much qualified input as we can before we have to make any sort of decision. But like I said, really we can't make any sort of firm decision until we know if we have a liquor license or not. So that's kind
Yes, appreciated your work so far, but I have to add another anecdote that I heard on the election campaign I've forgotten is that one gentleman was pleased about the area and potential for a pub because if he went there on a Saturday night and fell asleep, there was a church across the street. He'd be able to get that other sense.
I thought that was you. Councilor Grant?
Well, ever since I've come on to council, revitalization has been the word that I've heard over and over again. And if ever there is a good example of what revitalization is all about, I would say this is. I wish you well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We'll consider your matter on the liquor license here shortly, so you're certainly welcome to stay with us.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to the agenda, we have staff reports. First one is on the Macklang Nature House Advisory Committee provisional report. First of all, a motion to receive would be in order.
Receive.
Second.
Received then, all those in favor? Motion's carried. So this report comes to us from the Macklang Advisory Committee, and staff have reviewed it and provided some recommendations. However, before we consider recommendations, certainly open it for discussion, further questions of staff as may be appropriate. So, council, members of council have any questions for staff in this regard? And failing that, then we could certainly deal with motions in terms of courses of action, either recommended or otherwise. Councilor Swift.
I've prepared a statement on this. I heartily support this recommendation. Councils have been struggling with this issue of how to honor Macklang's
Sorry,
wishes.
Councilor Swift, we're not talking about the recommendation unless we move it, so do you want to move it?
Oh, I'll move it then.
Yeah.
Second.
And this is the recommended course of action of disassembling the Macklang house and using the site and some materials to create a viewing platform in conjunction with existing walkway.
Yes.
Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. Carol?
Okay. So I support this recommendation because councils have been struggling with this issue of how to honor Macklang's wishes for the last 34 years. If there had been adequate funds and the house was suitable for a museum, it would have been acted on before now. When Mac left the funds, he recognized the need for ongoing security, as he suggested having a live-in caretaker. He also recognized the need for ongoing operational funding and asked that 3/4 of the money be devoted to maintenance and operation. In today's world, these requests are not practical or affordable. I believe Mac's legacy comes from his contributions as a naturalist and his love of the natural world. This is our chance as a council to honor that legacy by creating something really special in the park. I believe we should direct staff to begin work on a design and make whatever applications are necessary to alter the trust.
Okay, so speaking initially then to the recommended course of action, we can deal with the trust motion separately, should this one pass. So, other comments or discussion on the recommended course of action as moved by Councilor Swift? Go ahead.
I would just like to add a footnote, please, because you can hear by Councillor Swift's words that there's an awful lot of time, work, and effort has gone into making this decision. It hasn't been a decision that has been made lightly, and I fully support everything that Maureen said. But in addition, I'd like to thank our chairperson, Terry Chester. He did an excellent job, and all of the committee members. It was an effort that came difficult, but it came in the end the right way. And so I too support it.
Further comments, Councilor?
Yeah. You know, before I knew who Macklang was and before I was on council, I'd walk around there and I saw the plaque out there years ago. And the plaque, when you read it, it kind of talks to what's happening right now. And the people who, his friends who placed this, they chose their thoughts from this Henry David Thoreau, but to reflect Macklang's life and philosophy. And basically, the first word is simplified. And then it goes on and it talks, and it says, don't burden yourself with possessions, keep your needs and wants simple, and enjoy what you have. And, you know, I think we have to remember part of who Macklang was. He was a fellow who who provided a lot of science to the world, but he's also somebody who liked to keep life simple. And I think this whole issue has been turned around and has gone to a nasty place. And I think we need to focus on what his friends thought of what he would like down the road. So. And I'm sure there's going to be a letter to the editor or two about my comments, and I'm going to be called names. But you know what? You got to talk to it, and their words said it all.
Thank you, Councilor Mann. Councilor Kim.
Yes, in regards to his legacy, I believe his legacy can be instilled and enhanced creatively through other means. For our present museum, an open-air structure, there's been talk about a virtual museum, lecture tours organized by people to honor this man, and certainly by using our museum. I think, though, the main point I want to make is that the best way to honor this amazing man is by restoring that spot to its natural state, to nature. That's what this gentleman was all about. And I think that an aging heritage home site is in hindsight, it would be nice, but there's too many factors working against it there on that site. And I think that restoring it to its natural state for all to enjoy is the proper route for council, and to also look at some of these other creative ideas as well.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Kim. Councilor Graham.
I was just wondering if we do pass this motion tonight, would the next step, somewhere along the line, we would come up with ideas for what we would actually do on that site? Is that
Yes.
the basic crux of what we're doing?
Assuming it passes at the next council meeting versus this committee recommendation. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're kind of limited in the fact that we've only got roughly $75,000. I mean, much has been made over the last few months of money and where it went and how it should have been much more. I would only comment to that, I mean, that was set up in 1982. I don't think there was anyone here in 1982 sitting on this board, so I don't know why they put the money where they did or what their thoughts were. It was revisited again in 2002 again. I don't know, we weren't here then, so I don't know why they did what they did with the money, but the reality is today, that's what we have.
Right.
And so that's what we have to work with. And it doesn't come close to rebuilding that house and doing all of the things that would be necessary to turn it into any of the ideas that were kept with keeping the house. So I just wanted to make sure that there would be a time that we could, we've all got different ideas of what we would see there, and possibly something that we could keep the, Mac Lang really was a significant person in our community, and he does deserve to be remembered in a proper way, and I think that if we can do that with the money we've got, then that would be our best option.
Yeah, and we'll speak to that in the second part of this motion around in terms of the trust. That anything that we do which isn't exactly what the will said, we'll have to in all likelihood go to some corridor application to the AG's department as to what is as close as possible to honor those wishes. And that's not an unusual application, but it would have to go through some third-party adjudication, if you will, once we decide, we have an idea of the staff's input as to what we'd like to have done. Councilor Price.
Yes, and I'd like to say that I'd like to thank the committee. They put a lot of time and effort and thought into this, and I appreciate all the work that the committee did. And I'd like to acknowledge this council for actually dealing with the situation, which is not an easy one, and it's been on the cards for a long time. My personal preference would be to see the house there and see it in all its glory. But given the state of the house and the finances we have available and the responsibility to the town, I don't see how we're going to keep it, and it greatly saddens me.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? So we have for for vote at this time. The course of action is moved by Councillor Swift. So, ready for question? All those in favor? Any opposed? No opposed, so the motion is carried. And the secondary motion is that staff be directed to begin the process to modify and necessary return to the trust.
Move that.
Second.
Just one question on timing of that. I assume that would be something we would do once we knew what we were suggesting.
Yes.
Okay, so that wouldn't happen immediately, but, and of course, the action of disassembly is also kind of tied in with that trust provision as well. So one, they have to happen together, but concurrent, I guess concurrent.
Correct.
We won't be taking down the house unless and until we've got approval to use the money for something.
Exactly. We won't be doing anything with the house until we have a plan, an approved plan.
Yeah, okay, that's important to clarify. Yeah.
And we will be trying to use some of the materials from the house as we can to,
Oh, absolutely.
with whatever we
Yeah.
do.
Once it's been approved by
Yep.
whatever approving authority is necessary here, we would liaise initially, I suppose, with the Attorney General's Department. Once council has kind of come to some conclusions on that, so that'll unfold over the next number of months. Any other discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried. And also thank you to the committee and its chair for the work that they did. I know it wasn't always easy, but I do appreciate them coming forward with this report in the time allotted and giving us some direction in that regard. So now we'll move on to the Comox Waterfront Vitalization Project update, and this is for information, so motion received.
Move to see.
Second. Receipt then, all in favor? Motion's carried. So this is from the CAO, and the report is self-explanatory, but perhaps there's a further update you can share with us.
Thank you, Worship. Yes, we've got another proposal from the contractor. It still doesn't work with the available funds that we have, and we also have some concerns from a staff perspective that some of the reductions we're looking at this time also affect the grant sources that we have, would further reduce those funds and raise the price of the project. So at this stage, we're still looking at coming back to council with more of a phased approach. Whether we can start on a portion of the project, the marine services building, the walkways, and look at a redesign of the twin sail buildings to work with the budget that we have available.
So that information will come back to us in what time frame?
More than likely, you'll be seeing something at your regular meeting of council in July.
So does that mean that in all likelihood not much will happen this summer down there? I guess subject to direction on that. I mean, we may have to, for example, re-tender some of this.
We may have to re-tender, and we may have to re-tender in phases. And construction, although if we re-tender the first phase, we're pretty close to being ready to go on that. So I think we can get going in short order, but it is going to delay the start definitely into the summer.
So with a mind to the letter we received, I think it was last week from the BIA, would it be safe to say at this point that in all likelihood nothing much would happen until after November?
I don't want to give up on that yet.
Okay.
I'm still hoping we can pull some rabbits out of some hats here.
Stay tuned on that.
So if you can mess up, not a place, that's still your goal. I'm just wondering too, with the fact that this is a multi-phase project, and I think, if I remember correctly, the water park is a different, we're doing it as a different thing. Would there be a possibility to start that project should the funding come and do it sort of in reverse order? Is that a possibility? Or would that be hard to do?
We have funding deadlines that we have to meet with this project that are approaching faster than the water park project. It may turn out that work will be done in concert with one another if we're successful with the water park grant. But we're still looking at proceeding with this first one, this late summer, fall.
Okay. Any other questions?
Those funding deadlines take precedent over the
Yeah, this is next March, April, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, well, with that, and we'll see where we get to in the next number of weeks. Appreciate the update. Okay, so, moving on to the matter that we heard about at the delegation stage of this meeting. This is regarding the new liquor primary license referral at 215 Church Street. So planning staff have brought this forward to us in terms of what direction council would like to give staff regarding the necessary consultation process. And essentially what happens here, for those who aren't familiar with this, the province has a standard procedure that once an application is made to the Liquor Control and Licensing Branch, the municipality affected is given the opportunity to comment. And they have a choice, council does, to either opt out of that or to ask and solicit feedback through the town, the views of residents in respect of that application, and commenting on the regulatory criteria outlined on page 2 of the report. And that includes location of the established, proximity in relation to other establishments, capacity of the number of people, hours of liquor service, number and market focus of clientele of that establishment, impact of noise, and the impact on the community if the application is approved. And if council wishes, then staff can be directed to gather those views as recommended here by placing a newspaper notice invitation to comment on 2 consecutive issues of the newspaper, and then a specific mail out of invitation to comment to owners and tenants within 75 meters of that property. So that's the staff recommendation in the background.
I would move that recommendation.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? And so I'll just ask staff then, when would that process begin?
The process will begin tomorrow.
Okay.
We'll be targeting the July council.
Okay, so feedback, newspaper ads and so on, feedback, and then coming back to us in July. Great. All right, all those in favor? Motion's approved. Okay, gentlemen, that's the next step along the way. No other matters of business, however, we do have an in-camera meeting, so a motion is required under section 91E, community charter. Public base. Moved to second. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned, and we'll just have a brief adjournment.